my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. Welcome to Vlog 397. It is Wednesday, February 7th, and I got a little distracted there because I was reading a comment from Dottie before we went live there, and it sounds like Dottie's out of the hospital or out of her surgery or whatever and doing well, and we'll get to all those comments here in just a minute, but glad to hear that, Dottie, and glad to hear you're back with us. I thought I'd start off this morning with a chirp. This is I told the story recently about how long it took to write Vine Covered Church. It was like 6 months, It was like, and I often think of that was the longest song that it took to write it. And in one way, for sure, that's the longest it ever took to write a song, was 6 months like that. But in another way, in a very real way, this one took me 30 years to write. And I know some of you have heard this story, but there's a lot of new people, so I thought I'd tell it real quick and then play the song. The story goes that when I was around 18, my brother Scott was 10. You've seen Scott on the channel here now. And Scott was a musical genius. He would come home from school and say he could play everything. I mean, everything. Didn't matter what it was. And of course, I was starting to get jealous from that. And sure enough, it turned out he could play pretty much everything. And so one day Mom and Dad bought him a real fancy organ. And so we were on the back porch of their house. He was playing this organ, and I was, jealous, so I had my guitar out. I could play my 3 chords, and, it was amazing how many ways I could mix up 3 chords and still not get it right. And it's pretty much true. But anyway, so we started writing this particular song. I was writing it, and he was playing it on the piano, backing me up, kind of, is really what it amounted to. And anyway, we just got a little bit of it done, and, no more was ever said. Well, I wasn't really into music at that time. I was just a little bit into it. So, starting to write a song, that was it. Well, fast forward 10 more years, now I'm 28, and now I'm getting interested in music, and I'm starting to want to play. And this song comes into my head, and I do not know where this song came from, because it's 10 years later, and I don't remember this song at all. And I'm trying to think, boy, that sounds like Marty Robbins. Where did that come from? So I bought everything Marty had. I wrote to Marty's fan clubs. I talked to country DJs, and they all go, oh, yeah, that's for sure. That's got to be a Marty Robbins song for sure. I don't know which album that's on. Everybody would give me the same reply like that. Now you fast forward it 20 more years. I'm still looking for this song. And I've asked everybody I can think of, and nobody knows about this song. So finally, I think to ask my brother, Scott, I said, Scott, do you have any idea where this song comes from? I've been looking for it for 20 years, since I started playing bluegrass, but it's 30 years in total from when I started writing it. He goes, yeah, I know exactly where it came from. You big, dumb, blankety, blankety, blank, blank, blank. And I said, well, where'd it come from? He goes, well, you idiot, you wrote it. He says, don't you remember we were sitting on Mom and Dad's back porch, and I was playing the piano and you were writing that song? And I went, oh, yeah. So it only took me, we probably spent 15 minutes on it that day, 30 years ago, and then it took me about another 15 minutes to write the last verse. So in actuality, it took me about 30 minutes to write the song, but it took 30 years to get it done. So anyway, there you go. So here it is. It's called From Where I Stand. And it does sound like a Marty Robbins song, I think. It's in the key of C, in case you're wondering. It does have a 2 chord, and if you know the national number system, that means that's a D dog, is the 2 chord. But it's just C, F, and G with a 2 chord in it. From where I stand, I can see all the lights of the city. For one man to love one woman so much it's a pity. From where I stand I can see the cantina she goes to. 2 chord, he's not supposed to, but goes anyway. From where I stand I can hear the music and laughter. me that's what her young heart is after. But I see it differently, I see her there with a man. Camilla's lying, I see it from where I stand. Down to 5. From where I stand, I can see the smiles on their faces. The music plays on as I watch their tender embraces. From where I stand, I can see her dress as it's swaying. It seems to be waving goodbye to me. From where I stand, I can hear the music and laughter. Camilla tells me that's what her young heart is after. But I see it differently, I see her there with a man. Camilla is lying, I see it from where I stand. Camilla is lying, I see it from where I stand. Well, that's the name of that tune, From Where I Stand. And it was pretty pathetic. Early Alzheimer's, but I think I grew out of the early Alzheimer's because otherwise I wouldn't be able to remember the story. Anyway, we had a great jam at Dickey's Barbecue Pit last night. A good crowd, not a big crowd, but a medium-sized crowd, and everybody seemed to just love it and just had a great time. And the band was hitting on all cylinders. It just was one of the best jams I think we've had in a long time. Of course, it had been a while. It had been since December that we really had gotten together as a group. There was a couple of us got together at different times, but never as a group. So it really went down well last night. Yolanda showed up, and she sang a couple of tunes and did a knockout job. And Yolanda's got 3 children there, a son and 2 daughters, and they're all just as cute as buttons. And yeah, their 2 daughters are just so pretty little cute little girls, just beautiful. And they're real shy and everything, just like their mother, until their mother gets on the roller derby rink. And to commemorate that, Gary sang a roller derby song last night to Yolanda, which was really funny. I don't remember who it came from. I think he said Jim Croce, but I could be wrong on that because they did another Jim Croce or 2 songs last night, and I may have that confused. But anyway, it was about a roller derby queen falling in love with a roller derby queen. It was a pretty funny song. Anyway, we had a great time. I wish you could have been there. I think I've got the microphone fixed. I had looked for the specific fix that I found this morning. I looked for it before, 2 or 3 times, just didn't see it. Sometimes I don't see the forest for the trees. And the fix was within the Streamlabs software. And so I undid what I did in Windows because that really only affected my machine right here. And that kind of skewed my test. So I undid what I did in Windows and then did that fix and then tested it both ways, and it seems to be fixed. So if you're having problems with it now, I don't know how to help you because I'm pretty sure it's fixed. And so I wanted to also address a couple of comments that I should have addressed when they came up, but I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't thinking clear. But, one of the comments says, that USB mic's not working, you need to get rid of it. Well, technically, these are not USB mics. They're just regular XLR mics, number one. And they're plugged in to this, what's the word now? this thing, the intermediate device that goes down to a USB port. That's true. It does go into USB eventually, but the ironic thing was, they were saying, get rid of that mic and go get rid of that USB mic and go back to what you had. Well, this actually truly is a total USB mic. This doesn't plug into the normal microphone ports. This one is only USB. Right there is the USB thing, and that's all it uses. It doesn't use the typical XLR thing. So this was the mic I was using, and it's pretty good. But the thing about this mic is that it peaks really fast, and it just distorts and things like that. And it doesn't pick up very far away compared to the mic I'm using right now. The mic I'm using right now is just like this. So we have two of these stage mics and AKG mics, and these are really great mics for stage performance. And right now that's what I'm using. Eventually for my daily vlogs, I'll probably be using this. This is a great vocal mic, but it's really only for vlogging and podcasts. It does not work well with instruments. So I'll be using this on my daily vlogs and using these bigger mics for our performances for the most part. And that's the name of that tune, and I hope it's working. And if everybody's commenting that it's not working, well, I don't know if I can fix it beyond where we're at. But one of the comments yesterday also was that the volume's way too low. Well, when I listen back to it, if anything, the volume's higher than it's ever been. I mean, it's really good, I think. So if the volume was low, then that was on your end, I think. So that's all I can tell you, because it's working super well. And according to the signals I see, it's working really well. I just hope that everybody else agrees. And now I might be burning right now. In other words, I might be peaking right now because I don't have a way to tell. And I tried headphones to this, and for some reason that doesn't seem to do it for me. I don't know. I didn't feel like the headphones was much of an asset, so I took the headphones back off and just winging it. So it's possible that I'm peaking, and if I am, I can turn it down a little bit. You can let me know that if it's burning on the high end. But I can't really tell that part. But other than that, I think we got it fixed. It's a cold morning here, and here's a little short clip that I just walked outside just a minute ago to film it for you. Can you hear the pileated woodpecker? Hopefully you can. It's off in the distance. It's a nice, brisk, cool morning out here this morning. It's right around 30 degrees, so that's a couple degrees below freezing. Everything still looks a little on the dead side, so I'm a little anxious for spring to start coming, though I hate to wish my life away. You can see the smoke settling in the valley up there from the wood furnace. Doesn't do that very often. Most of the time it just rises, and a lot of times there's very little smoke at all, but I just filled it up, so whenever you just fill it up, there's a lot more smoke. You can see our old big Dodge truck there. That's the one Sue uses to pull her horse trailer and stuff. You can see the project where I put the new culvert in from all the way over there, where that little white pipe is sticking up all the way across over to the ditch here. Still don't have everything to final grade, but it's in pretty good shape, at least usable shape. Lots of work around here to do. You can see the sawmill's waiting on me there, and the bobcat with the grapple bucket is sitting there to put logs on. And in addition to all of that, Sue's cleaned out this area over here, and she wants me to hang shelves over here. I bought shelves for it, I just haven't had time to do it. Just another one of those things to do, you know. I don't have anything to do, really. I don't know why I'm slouching. But I just thought you might like to see what it looks like out here on a cold winter morning. Going back into the office where it's warm. Yeah, I got lots to do. I mean, and that's that much of the iceberg that you see there. Trust me, there's so much to do. I seriously just feel like I am so far behind the eight ball. It's starting to make me nervous about it, because it's really hard to relax when you just have so much to do. And I spent all day again yesterday, all day in the office trying to clean up messes and things. You know, what I had discovered was Well, first of all, I hadn't been in there in a while. That's the first thing. So it always goes to heck when you haven't been in there in a while. But I also discovered that I failed to balance my accounts for the month of December. So I thought I had done every month, and I really thought I had done December, but obviously I didn't. So I had to catch up on balancing all my accounts from December all the way through, through the end of January. So there was 2 months worth of reconciliation to do on 3 different accounts. And that's not too hard on 2 of the accounts, but PayPal is a nightmare. It's a nightmare to try to balance. Nightmare is too soft of a word. It really is very difficult to balance PayPal. And I'm off by about $70-some right now. And that doesn't sound like that's horrible, like, oh, who cares, $70. Well, the problem with it is what I found, and I don't know if the rest of you find this, but if you're off by 10 cents, you could really be off by $1,000, because what happens is if you make 2 different errors on 2 different directions, they'll cancel each other out, and the difference is what you're seeing as your error. And the error could be very small, but your real error could be very huge. And that's what I found yesterday. I found a bunch of mistakes that I had made, or whatever, or omissions, not necessarily mistakes, but some omissions and some things that got put in the wrong account and things like that. And man, it can mess up your day. And that's where I'm at. I'm still messed up with PayPal. I've still got to get it fixed. The other 2 accounts are completely fine, but PayPal is dealing me a fit, and so I've got to get that figured out and straightened out. Anyway, that's the name of that story. Let's see. I thought I'd also. I'm going to work on the Dremel bits. If you noticed, I changed the title to today's vlog like 3 times. I put in an original title, and then I went back and changed it, and then I changed it yet again. So I'm also going to cover our our Dremel bits that someone asked about yesterday. I kind of narrowed it down to what makes sense, I think. And I'll get to that in just a minute as the last thing. But right now, I brought in another board from outside. So I thought I'd test the 2 different outdoor boards. One of them has been in the shop for a while, for a few days, and the other one's been outside until this morning. So I thought we'd just try the test on that. This one was the board that's been in for a while. This one's even a little cooler. I can feel it. So this one's the one that was outside until this morning. So we'll start on the dry one first, or the one that should be a little drier. And 12.0, and this one should be wetter, and sure enough it is. It's 19.6. So that'll tell you just the difference of bringing something inside and outside. So 12 to 19, we're almost 20. So huge difference. And like I said, I've got to find room in here to bring all that wood in here and dry it in here, because otherwise it won't be dry enough by the time I'm ready to use it. And again, for those of you who don't understand why you have to dry it, and since you're going to be building something outside, it's that wood continually dries. Even outside, it dries, but it just takes longer. And if you drive nails into it while it's wet, then the wood will shrink around that and crack your wood at the nail joints and things. So that's why you need to dry it some. Okay, Dremel bit explanations. This might be a little difficult because this video camera that we're using for vlogging is not the best for up close especially. So I thought I'd just try to take it in some kind of order of importance, I guess. One of the important things that I do with the Dremel is, binding work. And that's probably the main use I had when I first started was binding work. And this is the kind of Dremel bit you want for binding work. This will cut a slot in your, around for your guitar or whatever. This is just one option. There's other ways to cut binding slots. So, you don't have to tell me that. We know that, but we're talking Dremel this morning. So for Dremels, if you're using Dremel, this is the bit, or at least one of the bits I recommend for cutting binding. And you notice that it's got the curved, if you see that these cutters go on an angle. As this is spinning, what's good about that is that it starts cutting, and it's cutting slices off. This is the preferred style bit you want if you're going to do binding with the Dremel. Here's the alternative, and I don't like this one at all. See how the cutters are straight up and down. This one is difficult to use, and it can knock chunks out of your wood. This one will, the slanted one cuts it much better. Anyway, so that's what you're looking for. And here's another alternative that I really like even better, but it's got to be the right kind of wood. If you get in real hardwood, this will knock big chunks out. But this one has carbide cutters on it. They're straight, unfortunately. I wish they were slanted also. But this one here, if you need to hog the wood out, this one definitely does a good job. It's got the little carbide teeth on it. These are really great for hogging out the wood, but like I said, you got to be careful with this one because this one can knock a big chunk out too. So, but again, those would be what I would use for binding typically with a Dremel. Some other important bits. Now, again, this is, everything I tell you about this, you kind of need to proceed with caution because if you haven't ever done it before, it can ruin your day really quickly. But I take this bit, which is kind of like the big one. It's got the slanted cutters again. There it is. The slanted cutters again. And the thing about this one is I can use this for detail binding work. In other words, like around the scroll of the mandolin, I can hold this in my hand and just freehand cut the binding slots around there. Now, you could alternatively do it with a knife and chisels and things like that, and that might be your safest bet if you've never done it before. But if you've got a good steady hand and a good steady eye, you can freehand cut them with the Dremel, and it's much faster. But you can also mess up your whole day real quick. So I'm just pointing that out. That's what I use for freehand cutting binding slots, is this little one. Now, you don't want to use the big one freehand because the big one will grab and just jerk all over the place. This one doesn't grab so bad because it's much smaller in diameter. So that's what I use for freehand binding. This is like a dovetail cutter, and I'm trying to think of where I use it. Oh, I use it, I specifically use it up there when I'm cutting out the truss rod slot area up there at the peg head, where you want to put a truss rod cover over that area. I use this one a lot of times to get in there and I don't know, because of the shape of it, it works pretty good for getting in there. Now, I got to tell you, because it's a bigger diameter, even though it's a little bit of a dovetail shape, or conical shape, I guess. The problem with this, because of this bigger area, is it'll grab and run, and it'll grab and take off. And so you got to be very, very, very careful if you're using this to hog wood out freehand. It will take off and run on you, and it'll run right across your peg head if you're not careful. Ask me how I know. I mean, it definitely can mess up your day. So, but this is kind of what I do. And after, if you get a real good grip on it, and you really intentionally holding it really well, and you'll take really light cuts, it'll do a good job, but you got to be very, very, very careful. This again is, I would use this in the same spot. This is rounder one, and this one probably won't run on you quite as bad, but it can run too. But this one is good for hogging out the area up in that, like in the truss rod slot area, and cleaning it up and smoothing it out, that kind of thing. So I use this for and I also use this for like carving the scrolls on the mandolin. A lot of times you're using really curly wood on the back, and trying to do it with a chisel, you'll chip out big chunks a lot of times. Well, you can take this and do light cuts in that scroll area, and really do well in the scroll area. And on the inside of the scroll, where you want to hollow it out more to lighten up the mandolin and just to get rid of extra wood, this is really a good tool for that too. It's just kind of a spiral cutter again, rounded head. These are really good for just generally hogging out wood and even smoothing wood on like interior curves and things like that. Oh, let's see. Again, this is almost the exact same thing, just on a smaller scale, and it's just mostly round. Again, this is not focusing very well, I know that, but I'm afraid to make this thing focus up close because then it won't focus on me again. This thing's a mess. This camera is not the best for this kind of work. But anyway, you can kind of get the idea, I think. And then here's yet a smaller version of that. And again, just for the same kind of purposes. When you get into really tiny areas and you need to do little tiny detail work, sometimes I use stuff like this for inlay. And then you get really tiny. And you probably can't even see that there's a ball on the end of that. But there's a ball on the end of that. And it actually has a cutter. You can feel it with your finger. And so when you really need to get detailed, this is what I use. And I've used this a lot. You'd be surprised how often I've used it. But if you really need detail, they've got them in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And you want to, the only way I can explain it is you have to be very, very purposeful. You got to be very, very concentrated, very, very steady. I try to rest my wrist on something when I'm holding the Dremel tool. Now, I got really big fingers, as you know, so for me, holding the Dremel tool is almost like holding a pencil. It's easy for me to do that. If you got smaller hands, this may not work, these techniques I'm telling you. But you gotta be purposeful. You gotta have a hold of that sucker. You can't just go, just can't do it loosey goosey. It ain't gonna work. You're gonna mess up everything. Very purposeful when you do it. And then this is just a sanding disc, and I use this for a lot of different things, smoothing out things and stuff. But I can't tell you anything specific that I use it for. But for some reason, I use them a lot. I don't know. Trying to think of something. Nothing's really coming to mind, but they're just handy. I use them quite often. Then I bought these, and these are handy too, but I don't use these on the instruments so much. These are diamond impregnated type. They're kind of smooth. This is a 150 grit, and I also have, I think, a 300 grit or 600 grit. I can't remember. Really smooth ones. But these diamond things are good more for metal work and for cleaning up little pieces of metal and stuff, smoothing it out. I think you can use it on wood too, but I do use these. Again, I can't think of a specific instance right now where I use it, but I have used it quite often, especially in small, light metal work. That's most of it. And then the last thing is, if you talk to your dentist right, you might be able to get a bunch of little dental burrs like this, and they come in all shapes and sizes too. And without on camera, you'll never find what you're looking for here. But and I don't see it. But the spiral cutter that I was telling you about here, let me find it. The smallest spiral cutter that I use for freehand binding work. Well, they make in Dremel, in the dental burrs, they have one that looks just like it, even a lot smaller. And here's one that's sort of similar, but this is more of just a tip than it is the whole thing. But anyway, these are great. If you get the straight spiral cutter, these little tiny ones, and you get the right collet, put it in your Dremel. These are great for freehanding inlay work. So you want the tiny ones because you're trying to cut, like say the rows that I cut out in the peg heads of the mandolins and the guitars. You want the tiny dental burrs with the cutters on them that. Spiral flute cutters, I guess, is probably the best way to say that. But anyway, that's what you're looking for. And then you can do very detailed, precise Dremel handwork on inlay and stuff. Like I said, there's one in here, I'm sure. I just don't see it right now. And I may have it in a different holder even, so I don't know where it is right now. But I have several of those too. And anyway, that's pretty much the main Dremel bits that I use. Now there's a gazillion more different kinds and shapes and sizes, and just a gazillion more. But those are the ones that I have specific purposes and specifically use a lot when I'm building instruments or whatever. Now, tomorrow, if I remember, and I think I will, tomorrow I'll talk about Dremel accessories, like the bases and binding attachments and circle attachments and just different miscellaneous things that I've built and modified for the Dremel tool and to make it work better. And for those of you who are pro the other brand, which I can't remember what it is now, Proxon's the other one. I have the Proxon also, but I'm telling you what, hands down, 7 ways to sundown, the big Dremel outdoes the Proxon in every way. There's not even a close comparison. And everybody just reamed me out saying, you need to go to the Proxon. Those Dremels are junk. If you get the big Dremel, which is, I'll show you that tomorrow also. If you get the big Dremel that I have, it 7 ways to sundown runs circles around the Proxon. It's not even in the same church, let alone the same pew. So the Proxon's okay for certain things, and don't get me wrong, I do use it, but I kind of relegated it to certain tasks. It's good for certain tasks. In my opinion, the Proxon is impossible to hold. It's real slick surface on the outside, and when you're doing detailed work and you're trying to be very precise and you're being very purposeful, the last thing you want is something slick to hold. The Dremel, on the other hand, has a very firm grip, and it don't slide around. So, if that makes you mad because you love your Proxon, well, fine, love your Proxon. But if you get one of these larger Dremels that I have, it's not even apples and oranges. It's not even anywhere near the same. So I'm telling you for sure, the Dremel's outdoes it 7 ways to sundown. Okie dokie, that's it. Go to the comments now that I've made people mad again. Rod Wentler, surprise, he's at the top. I'll be darned, ain't that special? And CL Varvel, I don't remember seeing that name before, but welcome from North Carolina, it says. There's Dottie. Hello, everyone. I'm back to join the family. Well, that's awesome, Dottie. I'm glad. I hope everything went really well for you. The fact that you're here, I'm going to assume it did. Let's see, moving on down. Carolyn Fikes there. And then Dottie has a comment here. It says, she's talking about her. I saw another comment she had there. It was about moving on down. She says, here's Dottie. It says, thanks everyone for your prayers. I sure did miss chatting with y'all. Jerry, I got the CD and it's fantastic. I really enjoy it. Well, thanks. Glad to hear that. I think that was the gospel CD I sent you. I'm not really sure. Can't remember. I sent out so many of them I can't remember who I sent to what. Let's see. Moving on down, I'm looking more for question marks. Looks like here's some question marks just before we go live. Dottie has, Jerry, have you ever wrote a song for your wife, Sue? Yes, I kind of did. I don't know if I'll do that one or not. It was really, seriously, one of the very, very, very first songs I ever wrote. It's got to be in the top 2 or 3 of the first ones I wrote. I might do it for you sometime. I don't know if I get brave enough. I don't know if it's any good or not. I mean, it's an okay song. It's not a great song. Not that any of them I wrote are great, but it's by comparison I'm talking about. Carolyn Fike, or Bill Mumbo was first after we went live. There's Michael 2X, and Bob Hamby says, have you heard of a banjolin, and do they still make them? Well, yeah, there's a gazillion different novelty instruments. That's what I call them, because they're not mainstream. People, they're not flocking to buy these things, and you'll find certain hardcore groups of people that are collectors of things like this. So that's not to, take away from that, but I'm just saying in the general public isn't flocking to these things. There are certain collectors and certain specific people that really like them and enjoy them. Me personally, I just call them novelty instruments, and I'm not into them at all. But some people call it a banjolin. That's one name, and then I've also heard it called a manjo, mandolin, banjo type thing. So it just depends. Like if you're a mandolin player, you'd probably call it a manjo. If you're a banjo player, you'd probably call it a banjolin. So there. But anyway, are they still making them? I don't think so. There might be a few novelty people out there making things like that, but not mass produced. Now, back around the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, things like, there was tons of those kinds of things, just lots of them, of different kinds. I'm trying to think of other ones, ukulins. I don't know. There's other ones. I just, me and my thinking of names and things. Dottie Hillbrett says, beautiful song. I'm glad you wrote it. Well, thank you. Bill Mumble says, both speakers today. Well, great. That's good. I think I solved the problem. And again, and I'm not just saying this because this is a more expensive mic than this. I listen to it with my critical ear that I have, and I listen, and this is definitely a higher quality sound than what this was providing. This is not bad. It's just not as good as what we have right here. And when we get the proper attachments for this, this will be this one too. So at least in terms of just your talking and vocal type thing. Now, again, this one's okay if you're singing and you're singing right into it. It's perfectly fine. But for the band playing, then you have to go back to something like this. This is what they call what they call a dynamic type mic. This one's what they call a cardioid type mic, the large diaphragm. This picks up things all over the place. This picks up things very specifically, like right here. You really do have to talk into this mic pretty much. So this is going to be right in front of my face if we use this one for the vlogging. You have to be within 6 inches of that black mic there to make it work right. Or very close to that. Moving on down. The Outboard Tinkerer. Hi, Jerry. Can you explain low rim banjo hoop to high rim hoop differences and the bridge sizes that fit them? Well, I don't claim to be an expert in that area. I know about them, and I I'm not a banjo player, so I can't really say like I have a preference or anything like that. But really what you're saying pretty much describes the whole thing. It's, first of all, let me just say I guess, this might sound wrong to some real banjo enthusiast, but for my purposes, kind of as a little bit of a banjo novice, I would say that there's two primary kinds of banjos. You got your flathead, and you got your, I can't think of what they call it now. It's flathead and raised head, but there's another name for it. Doggone it. You guys will have to put it in the comments. I can't think of it right now. I know it. Flathead and raised head's all I can come up with right now. But anyway, the flathead basically is flat all the way across from on the flange, the rim that you're talking about there. It's pretty much just flat as it can be. The raised head, which is the only word I can think of, and there seems like there's another name. But anyway, it's actually raised above the metal rim around there, and it has its arch top. That's what they call it, an arch top. So the arch top, which is really kind of a weird name because it's not an arch. It's flat, but it peaks up above the metal ring around there. And so there's those two main styles of banjo. And can I tell you a whole lot more about that? And can I really tell you that much about the bridges and all that? Not a whole lot. I will tell you in my opinion, the banjo is one of the most mythed instruments, if you will, in terms of the setup. There's so many people have so many ideas. And the bottom line truth of it is, when you boil it all down, there ain't one lick of difference between setting up a banjo and setting up a guitar. And I know the banjo players are out there screaming, "You're wrong, you're completely wrong." No, I'm not completely wrong. It's exactly the same thing. The scales are exactly the same. Your intonation is exactly the same, no matter what they tell you. So there's so many myths about the banjo. They've got these half moon bridges, the Snuffy Smith bridge, the blankety blanket bridge, and the such and so and so. Ain't nothing to any of it. The bottom line is it needs to intonate just like any other instrument needs to intonate. And if you do it the same way you see me do a guitar, I guarantee you'll be happier than all the hype that you hear out there and all the myth and all the crud that's going on with banjos. And it's been that way ever since I've been in music. There is so much crud about banjos that everybody just thinks and believes, and it's been perpetuated, and it's all myths. I'm telling you. The thing that mostly controls your bridge height is your neck angle to your thing. If you get a steeper neck angle, you're going to need a taller bridge. I mean, it's just like on your guitar. It's not any different at all. But the difference is that the banjo's so mechanical, you can monkey with it and change it, and everybody and their brother's got the whole toolkit to monkey with it. And they all have their theories and ideas, and it's got nothing to do with any of it. It's all just back to the basics. If you go right back to the basics and you do exactly on a banjo what I've done on you see me do on guitars, it works exactly the same. There's not one tiny bit of difference. And I know a lot of banjo players out there just cringing and just screaming and going, "No, that ain't right, that ain't right." I'm telling you it's right. It's black and white, 100% right. It's not 99.9, it's 100% correct. If you just boil it down and think about the common sense of it again, you'll understand that it's right. Your fret scales are exactly the same on a banjo as they are on a guitar or a mandolin or anything else. And I don't mean the specific scale. You know what I'm saying. When I'm saying your setup for your scale is exactly the same setup as it is on a mandolin or on a banjo or a guitar or anything else. There's no difference at all. So there's that little rant. But there are so many myths. I just cringe when I hear these banjo players. They just tell you their theory and they're all this stuff, and I don't ever argue with them. I just listen to them and say, yeah, okay. I know it's 100% wrong when they say it, but it's wrong, and I don't care what they say. It's wrong. Like those curved bridges and stuff. Could you make them work? Sorta, kinda, but there's nothing to it. You can put I'm not saying you don't need to intonate any particular string. You may have to, just kind of like on a mandolin or kind of like on a guitar. You may have to. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you follow the same intonation procedures I use on a guitar, on your banjo, it'll work exactly the same. Not that much difference. And that's all I got to say about that. I bet you're sorry you asked on that one. But I don't know enough about all the specific mechanical differences, and they don't. The bottom line is it's just preferences at that point, whether you like the arch top or whether you like the flat top. It's just preferences for the most part. I mean, they do have different sounds, don't get me wrong, but it's just all preferences. But as far as the actual setup goes, not a bit of difference. Not one tiny bit of difference. Whew, I bet I made a bunch of people mad on that one. Bill Carter is next there. He says, have a blessed day. Well, thank you. And here's some question marks from Ronald Todd. Sound is great today. Well, thanks. Dennis Moon, AKGs are good mics, but a little bit pricey. Yeah, these are expensive. I've had these for 30 years at least, I'm sure. Maybe longer. I've had them for a long time. I've got a pair of them. And they're great mics. They're great for stage. They pick up everything. You don't have to have a mic for your bass. You don't have to have a mic for your guitar. Or Now, we do also add an extra mic or two for instruments to just get in to take a break or something, but you don't really have to have it. These work just fine, these AKGs. And like I tell you, I like simple. I like simple. Simple is so good if you just go with simple. You'd be surprised how easy it makes things work out for you. Let's see. There's Zappa. He's got some question marks at the end there. Glad you're doing. He's talking to Dottie. Maybe you're a vampire. Oh my goodness. So Dottie's got some blood issues there. It sounds like not good. Peter Laubach from Germany. Glad to see you there. Christia Thomason. Jerry, I always say that I'm so far behind that I've caught up with myself. One thing at a time. You're right. I'm telling you what, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And, and my schedule doesn't always align with Sue's, and she's got her ideas of what she wants me to be doing. Like, for instance, she wants me to do those shelves. Well, that's so far down on my priority list, I can't even tell you. So there's Yolanda's music. And I see her there. Okay, moving on. I think it scrolled on me. How far did it scroll? I don't know. Geez, when it scrolls, it's hard for me to find where it went. Okay, I think I found it. The Freeze. Jerry, thank you so much for the Tonewood supplier in Missouri recommendation. What a treasure of knowledge he has. Yeah, that's a good place to go. I started buying from him. For those of you who are not understanding what we're talking about, it's old standard wood. He's in Fulton, Missouri. He sells mostly the top boards, and he sells the maple, curly maple, and he sells some sycamore, I think, now. He may have more than that now. It's been a few years since I was up there. Whenever I go up there, I usually buy $1,000 worth of wood and bring it back, But he's a good guy. I started buying from him back when he was still a conservation agent. He was a conservation agent in Missouri, and he was doing the wood on the side. And I actually learned about him, believe it or not, from the famous Australian mandolin builder, which I'm struggling to get his name, Gilchrist. So Stephen Gilchrist. Yeah. So I was talking to him, I think on the phone. And anyway, he says, "You mean you don't know about John Griffith up there in Fulton, Missouri? You live in Missouri and you don't know about him?" And I go, "No, I don't know about him." And, this was back in the early days. And anyway, so I drove up there, met him, and been buying from him ever since. And John also builds, or used to build, some violins. I don't know if he still does or not. But anyway, that's a good place to get wood. And John, he quit being a conservation agent and just does the wood on a full-time basis now. And he travels pretty much all over the world and brings back like a specific log and cuts it up for instruments. A lot of his travels, I think, now are up to, like Northeast United States and Canada and places like that. And probably other places, but he gets a lot of his large spruce trees and brings them back, and cuts them up for instrument wood. Very high quality stuff. Let's see. Bill Mumbo, you could put your siding up with the hide glue. You're so fun, though. Yeah, that would keep it from breaking, wouldn't it? It would just fall off. We wouldn't have to worry about it splitting the wood. It would just fall off in big chunks. Rubbish Guitar Bloke is the username. Those Dremel bits are so expensive. Have you found any non-genuine ones that aren't rubbish? Well, actually, I buy these in packs of 10 or 12, these small ones, and these are very useful. I buy these like off of Amazon. You can or eBay. I've bought a lot of Dremel bits off of Amazon and eBay, and they're not necessarily Dremel bits. Whenever you start searching for these, you'll start to see alternatives, and that's how I found them. I don't know how to tell you where to find them exactly because it's been years ago, and I bought big packs of them, and yeah, it's just that kind of thing. I don't know how to tell you how to find them, but other than just start searching out there, and you will find alternatives. Let's see. Moving on down. Ronald Todd, I use Kurtz all bits for carving with my Dremel and are great, but a little pricey. Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but I'm sure that's probably better. I never got into details like that. I just found something that worked and used it and just went on. I never searched for anything necessarily better. Paul Akers, thanks, Jerry. You have a better info on bits than other internet videos. You could make a short video, maybe. Yeah, that may be not a bad idea, but again, pat myself on the back. With 40 years of experience, it's showed me that these are the things that I use all the time. There's a lot of other kinds of Dremel bits that I rarely ever use. Every once in a while, there's some unique bit that you need, but most of those are the ones I use all the time when I was building instruments. Doesn't mean you couldn't use something better and something different, Zappa says, the Proxxon base is better than the Dremel base and worked perfect on the Dremel tool. Yeah, the Proxxon base, I would give you that, was better than your average Dremel base. But when I show you all that stuff tomorrow, and with the custom one I had made, it runs circles around even the Proxxon base. But the Proxxon base is good. I will give you that for sure. Mark Nasdam, good morning, Jerry. Hey, Mark. And Ronald Todd, I carve with Dremel and Fordham. Yeah, Fordham is hard to beat. Yeah, and you're right with that. I've got a couple of those, actually. Again, I'm struggling for words. The long spiral thing that... what's it called? I don't know. I just hate myself when I can't think of words. See, when I was doing the videos, I would think of the word and put it in the video, but now live, I can't do that. So you're learning my secrets. But anyway, I don't like that the cable coming down, the spiral cable that's spinning, and it's easier for everybody to hold. It's got like a little pencil that you're holding onto. It's very small, it's very compact, easier to hold. And for a lot of people, they find that much, much better. And I don't blame you. I totally get it. I understand. But I don't like the darn cable hanging down. I don't like the way I feel that pulling on me and all those different things. And yeah, I know it's all in how you set it up and everything. And yeah, I can make it work. But I prefer the flexibility of the Dremel. And with my huge, large fingers and hands, it's like holding a pencil for me. I'm not saying that works for everybody. I get it. I know it doesn't. And the one with the spiral cable that's spinning, and there's a name for it. I don't know what it's called. Flexible shaft, I guess, is the best way to say it. For those flexible shaft, other kinds of cutters, they're great too. But they're just not my favorite. Just my preference, it's not saying they're bad, because they're not bad. It's just not my preference. But anyway, moving on down, Simon Jardine's got a longer one there, but I don't know if he's wanting me to look at that or not. He says he's here on time for a change. Jerry, the lower you guided me on is a large-bodied archtop guitar on checking LR Bag's options. It'll be staying acoustic, okay? Yeah, probably because of the expense, I guess. Yeah, LR Bags is expensive. I ain't going to say it isn't. But if you can afford it, you won't be sad if you buy it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's like the old you get what you pay for kind of thing. But LR Bags, I really haven't seen a bad product. I mean, they've all been super good. Now, that's been years back that I'm talking. So I'm not talking current. Maybe they've changed and maybe they've gotten cheap. I don't know. But their older products for sure were awesome. Mark Nasdam, hi Jerry. Question: before my dad passed, he gave me a guitar he had bought. It's a Sigma made by Martin. Problem is the strings are too high and it kills my fingers to play. Can you take a look at it? Yeah, I'll look at it for you, Mark. Mark's Yolanda's other half. And anyway, just bring it by sometime, or if you want to, bring it by the restaurant some night if you don't want to make a special trip, and I'll just look at it there and give you an idea of what it would take to fix it for you. Let's see. Okay, he says Leon Russell wrote the Roller Derby Queen. Okay, that may have been the one they did. I like I said, I don't remember who they said did it. Bob Hamby, thanks for your knowledge on that. Someone brought one to me they wanted to sell, and I had never seen one before. I didn't buy it because I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to play it. Yeah, again, I got enough information on banjos to know what I'm doing. I just don't know all the different little idiosyncrasies that all these banjo players like to talk about. Trying to think, like the tone rings is a good example. There's everything from aluminum to brass to chrome, and there's just all kinds of tone rings. And boy, there's some that swear by this particular tone ring, and some swear by a different one, and then how the tone ring fits the rim, and all these things. And I know how to make all that work. I just don't know necessarily, I don't have a preference. I don't know which one's better and which one's not better, and all that. And that's what I don't know. What I do know is you set them up exactly the same. Whether they want to believe that or not, I don't care. But that's the truth. It's black and white, 100%, not even a slight discount in the 100%. It's 100% true. You set them up the same. Anybody tells you different is just don't really understand it. That's all I can tell you. James Kopp, will you use a nail gun on your cedar? My house is sheathed in cedar. Sometimes I use deck screws. I probably will do it the old-fashioned way, probably with a hammer and a nail. That's probably how I'll do it. Honestly, I will. It's not that big, and nail guns are great, don't get me wrong, but for one thing, I don't have electric out in that area, and I don't have the cordless version of the nail gun, so I could probably reach it with enough air hose and stuff. I got a air hose type air gun. Outboard Tinkerer says, thanks for taking time to answer all these questions. Well, you're welcome. Maybe... I guess he's talking to Glenn there. No, he said my name. I don't know. I can't read. That's all the problem. That's the whole problem right there. Rubbish Guitar Bloke, when will you learn the wife's priorities are your priorities? Better fix those shelves. Yeah, well, the difference is you guys, they can hold, the food thing over your head and say, well, I'm not fixing you dinner till you do this. Well, she can't do that with me. Because I don't care about food at all. Let's see. I bought a new master kit on eBay for $39. This is a surprise. It comes with the pencil, has a collar like my Dremel, really heavy duty. Okay, I don't really know what that is offhand. Zappa says, I was wrong. Jim Croce wrote Roller Derby. Well, that's what I thought they said, but I didn't know for sure. Because like I said, they did another Jim Croce song or two, or they were talking about Jim Croce, and I could have had it mixed up. I really don't know. So anyway, they did do the Roller Derby song last night. That was the first time I'd ever heard it, and Gary sang it, and it was a pretty funny song anyway. Well, that's the end of the vlog this morning. That's all the comments. 183 viewers at the moment. I'll try to remember to do some more on the Dremel tomorrow, but we'll talk about accessories and add-ons and modifications, and we'll get into a lot of stuff tomorrow on the Dremel. So hopefully you'll join me then. I'm going back into the office and play with PayPal. I'll see you tomorrow.